I'm about to show you some of the most cunning fishing equipment available anywhere. If you've never been impressed by primitive fishing equipment, you will be when you're done watching this video. One of the most important materials to use for making primitive fish hooks is the grapevine claspers off of the wild grapevines. And as you can see, they twist up into little curly cues, and they hold on to the thorns perfectly, and it's one of the most convenient things to use for making fish hooks, because when you use this material you don't have to tie. As far as thorns go, I like using thorns off of the thorn apple tree. See, those work really good. Now, a lot of survivors out there would recommend that you use rose bushes to make your fish hooks out of, like the stems off these roses here. But the problem with that is these aren't stuck onto the stem very well. They just break right off. And if you go through all the trouble of splitting these stems and lashing them back together so you got a treble hook to make a fish hook out of, the fish will bite it, and then thorns will just snap right off. So that's not really a good material to use. Okay, take your thorn, take your grapevine clasper. See, you got a hole right there. Just pass the thorn through it and push it in until it shoves in there tight. As you can see, that makes a good hook. And that's something you can depend on. And it won't break apart, it won't fall apart, it'll get the job done. Now that's the fastest, simplest way to make a hook. Right here are two wasp lures that I have. This one right here has front legs on it that are intended to hold a caterpillar or some other kind of bait. And this one here is just a standard wasp. And then to make it even more natural, you can take a caterpillar like I've got here, and because this fishing lure has two front legs to hold on to stuff, you can make it grasp onto a caterpillar like that, and it makes it look like a wasp carrying a caterpillar. And it's completely natural, and believe me, boy, when this hits the water, them fish are going to tear it up. So, and again, this is one of the most cunning, most brilliant methods you can employ to do your fishing. And if you very carefully put your lures together and plan on how you're going to fish with it, your results can be amazing. These lures are made by simply using a grapevine clasper, a feather, and a thorn. Now the next lure I'd like to show you how to make is a grasshopper. Made from just a piece of grass and a wood burl. See, it's got nice legs on it. And when you put this together, it looks just like a grasshopper. The materials you'll need for this lure is, of course, your piece of grass that has the grasshopper legs on it, a grapevine clasper, and two thorns. And for this particular case, I'm going to use these two cactus thorns. First thing you do is thread your grapevine clasper onto the hand twisted line. The next thing is there's two little tiny roots right there at the very tip of it, of your grasshopper. And what you do is you open up your line, you pass those two little roots through the loop. Like so. So that they stick out like that. Then what you do, very carefully thread those two little roots through the hole in your grapevine clasper. And the next thing you do is very carefully thread your grapevine clasper onto the head of the grasshopper. And if you spin it, it'll open up a little bit, and it'll increase in diameter, and it'll go on there nice and tight. Okay, see? There's my root right there. That little root is important. And what you got to do is you got to pass it through one of the loops in the line. You just open it up, and with a fit or a punch or something like that, you press it right through the line. And that positively locks the grasshopper onto the rope, and it won't come off. It'll hold it on there nice and tight. Then you take a punch, and turning the grasshopper upside down, you punch a hole through the root. Yeah, you just punch a hole right through it until it comes up through the top. You pass your needle through that hole, and that's what makes the hook right there. And I always use 2 thorns or 2 cactus needles, and you make them stand together like that. They have a lot better strength. Just pass them both through the same hole. See? Like that right there. And that gives you a lure that looks just like a grasshopper. Now you can take these little fronds of grass in the back and bend those over to make it look like the grasshopper's back legs. And they'll bend down, they'll look just like legs. And that positively locks all of it together and gives you an excellent lure. And if these roots right here are a little bit too long, you can just cut those off and make them the appropriate length. Cut them off or snap them off. See, they'll just snap right off. Just grab it, both hands, pinch, snap. See, and that gives you a grasshopper with legs. And believe me, this is a good lure right here. The fish don't know that it's not a grasshopper. And as you can see, lure like this work really good, and because it's made out of all natural materials, the fish will accept it in the water. They don't think it's strange, and because it really looks like a grasshopper, they're going to be more apt to bite at it than an artificial bait or just a regular hook with a piece of bread on it or something like that. The closer you can come to mimicking life when you're hunting or fishing, the better chances you have of catching your prey. And you can have sinkers any size you want by using the line claspers. See, they'll grab right onto the heavier stones, and you can have sinkers any weight you want. And also you can make bobbers using the line claspers. And this particular bobber here is made from the horse weed bush. It's a little tiny weed that grows on the ground. The wasp will sting it, and it'll grow this gump on it right here. And these are very buoyant bobbers, and you can take a grapevine clasper and spiral it right around there and attach it to your line right here. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. See, to attach one of these type of sinkers to the line, you slide the line in there like that. And you take a bead, see, which is another loop from a grapevine clasper. Slide it down over it like that, so it helps line it all, everything up, hold it all together. See, I got just a conventional fish hook here, made from a small bead from a grapevine clasper, a cactus thorn, and the rib bone from a possum. And it's just passed back and forth through the loops of the line, and when you do that, it'll attach on there very securely and it won't come undone. You have enough of a shank there to do that. See? And you got your bobber, or your sinker, rather. And then the bobber, see, wherever you want to attach it at, you do the same thing. It works just like the keychain on a key ring. You just spin it on there. Just like that until it makes a half loop, and it locks it in place. The bobber won't move. See? See? It's attached to your line. You got your sinker and your hook. Now you're ready to go fishing. See, there's the bobber, sinker, and the hook. Of course, you can adjust the depth of your bobber wherever you want it. Yeah, you use as long a fishing line as you need. And this equipment is, yeah, very primitive, very neat, and it also works very well. Now the next type of hook I'd like to show you is made from a wood burl, right where the swirl is. And what you do is you make a bead out of it, and you poke a small hole in it, And you slide it over your branch tip or your vine or your rope or whatever you're using. And if you're using a vine, you slide it up to a leaf site or where there's a little bit of a fat spot. And the next thing you do is you slide a thorn in one direction, and then you slide a thorn in there going the opposite direction, and you take your vine, and you snap it off or cut it below that point. See, and that gives you a good fish hook that it won't slide off, it won't come apart, but you have to make sure you wedge it really tight. It can't be loose on there, it has to be really tight. And that's a convenient way to make a toggle hook out of a wood burl. Okay, I'm going to take this wasp lure right here, and you see I got a nice little curly cue on the end, and I've got a hand twisted line, well it's a root, that I twisted up into a rope. And I'm going to show you how to attach this to your line. What you got to do is open it up a little bit, pass it through, and you spin it on there, spin it, and then you pass it through another loop just like that. You see, that'll hold that line perfectly tight, and the fish hook won't come off. So you can cast it out as much as you want, and it'll hold on there, and if you catch a fish, it'll hold tight because it's twisted through the braids in the rope, and there's no way it can ever come off of there. See? So that's one of the most intelligent ways you can use a grapevine clasper to attach to a line without having to tie any knots. And yeah, it's clever, it's cunning, and it's the most perfect thing. Now that I've taught you a little bit about making fish hooks and lures, I'd like to show you my tackle box and my hand line. You just unwrap this. Yeah, this hand fishing line right here is 30 feet in length. And you can use it like a fly fishing rod, or you could attach it to a pole if you wanted to. See, it's got a good handle right there, and it's about the diameter of a pencil until you get to the end of it, and it slowly tapers to a very slender line when you get to the end. And of course this tip has a closed loop right there, intended for you to hook your fish hooks to. And when I say it's a tapered line, you see the difference in diameter from the end of it to where the handle is. See, it's a significant difference in size. Now my tackle box is just a piece of bamboo, or river cane, that I was split in half. You see I got a smaller piece of bamboo that has a cork in it, and I keep my my cactus thorns and small parts for making more fish hooks. In the center section I keep my fish hooks. See, like this conventional hook right here. And my wasp lures. Then I have another section here where I keep my anchors and other stuff that I might need, like, well, if I need to lash something, I keep a little lashing material there. That makes a convenient method of having a tackle box. Now I'm going to show you once again how to set this up. Take your sinker. First thing I do is I'll put a wedge on there, a bead, and I'll run it on there. Then I'll pass this over my line. And when I get to the depth where I want to lock my sinker off at, what I'll do is I'll spin that bead onto it. You see? That effectively holds it in place where it won't move, won't slip. And see, for the fish hook, I have another small bead. Break those off, cut them. Yeah, be careful not to drop them. I'll slide that over my fishing line. Then I'll take my hook and I'll open up that closed loop at the end. Slide my hook on there, and you weave the hook back and forth through the loops. Open up another loop, and you skip one. Open up a loop, slide it on there. And that'll lock your hook onto the line. Now that'll hold it securely. And if you're afraid that maybe it won't, you can spin one of your beads down over top of the hook. Yeah, all you gotta do is twist it. It'll open up. And it'll lock it on there just like that. See? You got a little bead, crisscross it on there. And now this fishing line is ready to use. And I mentioned it before in some of my other videos. If you have beads, like this glass bead right here, you can use the yellow glass beads to trout fish with, because
trout are attracted to the color yellow. They love biting on corn. So if you have a yellow bead that you can use to build your fish hooks with, you don't have to have bait. The bead is the bait. And it's convenient, it works great, and it's something that I would recommend to anybody. And there's several different ways you can employ using the beads with the vine clasper fish hooks. Yeah, see, you just attach them on there at convenient positions. That just eliminates your need to use bait. You know, sometimes bait can be a difficult thing to find, especially in cold weather, winter conditions. Just carry a couple yellow beads with you, or a necklace. I usually wear a necklace with beads on it, and when I need them, I just break the necklace apart and use the beads.
So it doesn't matter if you're making wasps, grasshoppers, conventional fish hooks, toggle hooks, whatever you can put together out there in the wilderness. If you follow my suggestions, you'll have the most excellent fishing equipment available. So I think maybe you'll agree that those things are amazing, and the primitive fishing equipment is astonishing if you put it together right. Thank you for watching my video. Alright, I need to select a suitable weeping willow branch. After stripping all the leaves off of it, now I've got a fishing pole that's about 15 feet long. Don't forget the thorns. And finally, the yellow beads from this necklace are going to complete my fish hooks. And because trout bite on anything yellow, especially something that looks like a fish egg, like these beads right here, I've got the perfect bait. Alright, we'll just take this apart. Yeah, that's what I want right there, that yellow bead. First thing you do is you put your bead onto your line, just like that right there. See, you just string it onto the end. Then you take your thorn, thread it through one direction, and then you take your second thorn, you thread it through the opposite direction. Just like that. And when you're done, this gives you a nice strong fish hook that doesn't come apart, and it's perfect for trout. And because the bead is yellow, it makes a perfect bait to attract the trout. So that's how to make a fishing pole with a weeping willow branch, a bead, and 2 thorns. This method of making fish hooks is the reason why beads were so valuable in ancient times. That's what they were used for, making fish hooks. If I can just pull these bones, these teeth out of the jawbone. Yeah, look at that. See, those are perfect for fish hooks too. Yeah, I can find beads that'll take those just right. And these will also give me the best possible shank for a fish hook. So using the bead system is a perfect way to transform these into fish hooks.
Yellow bead is bait. Just use the willow like a fly fishing rod. They act quite a bit the same. These weeping willow branches, and of course you can see this one, like I said, is about 15 feet long. Some of them are even longer. That's all you got to do. And if you keep lots of beads and thorns handy, when the fish strikes, sometimes they break. So if they break when you're trying to catch a fish, you just put another bead on there, put more thorns in it, try it again. Here's another way to think about fish hooks. Instead of using beads, you can use the claspers off of these grapevines. And I'm going to show you how to do that. First you gather a vine and you take all the leaves off of it, but you leave all the claspers. You see, with all the leaves gone, you have all these curly appendages to use to make your fish hooks out of, so you can use this like a trout line. Let's go build some hooks. See, this is a good fish hook if you had a line to tie it to. Just by simply adding a feather to it, I could transform this into a lure that looks just like a wasp. All I did is take one of those little bone teeth that I had and passed it through the closed up little whorl right there. Had a little hole in it. Perfect fish hooks. If you don't have a line to tie your fish hooks to, the technique is to use the grapevine itself. You pass your hooks through the little eyelets right there. You can make multiple hooks, and you just bait them all up and put the vine down in the water and use it to fish with. And yeah, it does work pretty good. Or if you want, you can use the little vine claspers as beads. They spin around into a circle and close off, and then if you cut that little thing off of there, you know, the same thing as a bead. These little rib bones and a thorn are also the perfect thing to make fish hooks out of. Only you have to lash them together and use pine sap, like this fish hook here. And of course cactus needles work perfectly well also. And when I store mine, I'll cut the end of a feather off and I'll use it like a quiver to keep them in. And yeah, they'll also keep your fish hook short. Just a tip end off of a feather. So if you do have to try and build a fishing pole without having beads or fish hooks or anything like that, you can just use the clasper off of a vine and a thorn and attach it to a willow twig like this or any other kind of branch or the end of a vine, and it gives you a perfect fish hook. And with these kind of fish hooks, you have to use live bait. So you just bait your hook with live bait. Pass it out there and go fishing. If you can transform these natural materials into lures, you don't have to use bait. Yeah? Don't forget about the yellow beads. Some methods of fishing without bait or using artificial bait can still work in the natural stuff. If you put them together right. If I catch a man a fish, I fed him for today.
If I teach a man how to fish, I fed him for a lifetime. This is the most intelligent approach to the method of survival fishing equipment that's available to you out there. And it makes me happy to be able to share it with you. This video was intended to demonstrate to you the most effective ways to make use of natural materials to build fish hooks and fishing poles in the wilderness. Using this method of bushcraft will help teach you to be self-reliant and how not to depend on manufacturers' store-bought items to provide the things you need. Well, that's it for today. I hope to see you next time. This is a set of fish hooks that I made that has all the classic D-rings and wasps and toggle hooks and things like that. Hi, in the next few minutes I'm going to be showing you how to make some fish hooks, but not the modern kind. I make primitive fish hooks, and I use a variety of materials like gardenia root cordage and stuff like that, and I'm going to show you how to make all that stuff. And the primitive methods of fishing are quite a bit different than modern methods of fishing, but I think they're so much better. And after I show you a fishing hook set that I have and show you how to make the fish hooks, I think maybe you'll agree too. Here's some really neat fish hooks. See this one right there, looks like a buzzard's head. It's made with a root, a split root cord just lashed around it. It's got 2 needles along the top there. They're held on right here. A little spot of pine pitch. See, there's a bent hook with a single needle, a cactus needle. This hook right here is a piece of wood that's shaped just like a goose body. It's fat down here on this end, and it goes real slender up at the top and makes a bent goose neck. And I put two cactus needles in there right there that run through the cordage to hold it on. So the hook isn't actually tied on to the string. It's the needles are passed through the rope, and so is the piece of wood, and they all bind up in the rope and it won't come undone. That's a fish hook shaped like a hand. You see the needle right there, the thorn. It's held by the fingers like that, held like that. And it comes out, the end of the thorn is stuck into the rope. And as you can see, the rope goes around the front and the back of the hand. So there's no way there's absolutely no way that can come apart. That's a really good hook right there, and you can see it's just spliced right into the rope wherever it's needed. Several of these on there if you wanted to, and every one of them would work fine. This is a wasp lure made with hair, that's hair, and a feather, and a bent piece of wood. And of course there's a thorn, a little tiny thorn right here on the back side that makes the hook. And you see the size, it's smaller than my fingernail. Yeah, those really aren't hard to make. Those are pretty easy. And you can see this is a D hook. It's got the bent piece of wood and a thorn, and it's lashed on with a piece of bark and a little piece of pine pitch. And this little piece of bark is for tying it into the cordage that it'll be mounted onto. And this is a toggle hook. See, it's just a triangle shaped piece of wood that came from a burl, and you drill a hole in it, you pass a root cordage in it, and you use 2 thorns to wedge the cord in place, and it doesn't come apart. That's a really good hook too. That's one of my favorite ones. And this hook here, it looks like an ant lion. It's got 2 needles right there, and that's exactly what you do. You put ants on it. This hook you use to use ants for bait, and it's made out of a wishbone. And it's got it's got a cactus needle and a thorn together. They're real close together. And you stick the ant in there, and you fish with the ant. And some of the other stuff you can expect to find is the root bobbers. Certain roots, when they die underground, they get real spongy and cork-like, and they make wonderful bobbers. That's what I'm going to be talking about with the next 2 or 3 minutes of this tape, is how to build a few fish hooks like that. The first thing you got to do is get a piece of burl wood like this here. It's got all the eyes and swirls and stuff like this. This one looks like a pig's head. So, yeah. And there's other shapes that you can find in the trees, but this one happens to be a pig's head. And what you do is you got to get the curved, bent pieces of wood off of it, and the eyes and stuff. And what I use is a chisel and a mallet to just kind of reach in there and get some of those pieces off. It peels them right out pretty good. Once you get a flake loose, you gently, very gently pry it off. You want to get well, that one broke, but you want to get as much of the wood as you can, and it leaves you with pieces that are shaped like this. And I'll take this and make this into a fish hook. And after you get your curled pieces of wood, what you do is you very carefully tear them apart. Sometimes you got to press them off. You can use a bone like I had there. You can rock a bone down on top of the piece, and you set it down on something solid and rock the bone down on top of it and break off the pieces. But you want to get something, it's a suitable shape, like this little round toggle fish hook that I can make here. The center of them is real easy to pop out. You can do it with a thorn. So that's a fish hook ready to go right there. And for curved fish hooks, like for this wasp right here, of course his wings are bent straight down, ready to have the pine pitch applied here and to right here. And I've tied it in place with a spider's cobweb, and that's plenty good enough to hold it in place until I get the pine sap on it. And once I get it pine sapped in place, I can put a little bit of cordage on the thorn here, wrap it with cordage, and then apply pine pitch again, and it'll be good to go. So that's what I'm going to do. But what you do, once you've got your hole in there, you run your root through the hole, just like that. And then you stick the thorn in, like that. Shove it in there like that. And it gives you a real nice hook, and you don't have to tie any knots. You don't have to do anything elaborate, don't have to melt anything. So that's 2 different ways to make an excellent wooden fish hook. So a good foundation in fish hook making, wilderness fish hook making, is founded in the pine sap lamp and pine sap and burrow wood. I'm Trapper Jack Survival. Thank you for watching.